trying to do, because I know you know it's a problem.
Certainly do, Chairman Grassley, and I'm glad you held this hearing. This is a bipartisan issue, as it should be, to discuss fentanyl and the devastating impact that opioid addiction has on America. In just a decade, this synthetic opioid has emerged as the deadliest drug in American history. All it takes is 2 milligrams. That's a fraction of the size of a penny to cause an overdose. It is so cheap that dealers are lacing lethal amounts into street drugs like cocaine and heroin, and their buyers are none the wiser. There's an overdose crisis in America, but we've learned that evidence-based solutions reduce death. In fact, in 2023, overdose deaths actually decreased for the first time since 2018, going down by more than 10%. We need to look at every factor that contributes to this reduction: counseling and treatment, training for first responders, naloxone to our hardest hit communities, all make a difference. We must also address how this poison gets in the hands of the most vulnerable people in America, our kids. Too often, fentanyl is peddled in the open on some of the world's largest social media platforms. Last Congress, the Judiciary Committee advanced several bipartisan bills that would finally hold these companies accountable and demand safeguards be put in place to protect our children. One of the bills is the Cooper-Davis Act. Cooper is a 16-year-old Kansas teen who tragically lost his life to a fentanyl-laced pill he bought through Snapchat. This bill would require big tech companies to take a more proactive role in stopping drug dealers from using their platforms. Sadly, Cooper is not the only teen who has lost his life to drugs peddled on social media. Bridget Noring is here to testify today. Her son, Devin, tragically died after taking a fentanyl-laced pill he thought was Percocet that he purchased over Snapchat. There's a lawsuit that she'll tell us about from the parents of those who were victims through Snapchat. In the coming days, I'll join Senators Marshall, Shaheen, and others to reintroduce what we call Cooper-Davis and Devin Noring Act. I hope the committee will again advance this critical legislation on a bipartisan basis. And I hope that Congress will finally allow these companies to be sued by their victims' families so they can be held accountable in a court of law. Enough teens have died due to big tech's deliberate indifference. We must also acknowledge the role the U.S. has played in arming cartels to the teeth. We send hundreds of thousands of firearms south of our border in an iron river, and the cartels cash men. They facilitate the use of violence to traffic fentanyl into the United States. Both state and federal law enforcement agencies are on the front lines of protecting our communities from fentanyl and other opioids, but detection is getting more difficult. Fentanyl is so potent and moved in quantities so small that high-value shipments can easily be hidden. As a result, law enforcement need access to technology and resources to quickly and efficiently detect these drugs. This includes expanding non-intrusive inspection capability, making life-saving naloxone widely available, and adequately funding state and local law enforcement. The funding freeze, which we're talking about, if it's going to stop the efforts of law enforcement to combat fentanyl, is a bad idea. The same is true of the recent order diverting federal law enforcement agents, including from the DEA and ATF, away from combating fentanyl and firearms trafficked by cartels and working instead on a mass deportation effort. As a reminder, the vast majority of fentanyl and other legal drugs enter the U.S. and are smuggled by American citizens through legal ports of entry. I'm also gravely concerned about the negative impact of mass removals of senior career law enforcement at Department of Justice and FBI on it and our ability to hold traffickers accountable to cut off the supply of fentanyl. The recent actions we've seen distract us from the need to take a comprehensive, bipartisan approach to tackling this crisis, including investing in addiction prevention and treatment, enforcing and strengthening our gun laws, giving federal, state, and local law enforcement the resources they need to do their jobs effectively. Getting fentanyl off the streets is a Herculean task that will require all of us to come together and work across the aisle to make this country healthier and safer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.